I just want to start off by saying I apologize for any background noise, but I had to do this on a short term notice. Now, I just want to start off by saying my name is Moby Jean. Some of you on this page may know me. Some of you, we've conversated, we've become friends, we've debated over things, but I just want to start off by saying I am honored to be part of this Black Comic Book Creators page celebrating Black History on this month. But one thing I want to bring up is this: do we stop here after February, the shortest month of the year? Does all this collaboration, all this gathering, all this conversation stop after this month? And another thing I want to bring up is that I've figured out a way for us to stop scraping and scrapping for what's left of the comic book industry, for us to stop struggling. I've figured out that if we come together, we can, acquire a larger readership. There's a lot of creators on here, with their own press companies and, many of them. Now, what I've done is I've bought and purchased an LLC, meaning I am a licensed company as of today. And the reason I bring this up is that with a licensed company behind anyone, we can avoid frivolous lawsuits, and we can, just focus on creating a product. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking here. You have your own studio. You don't want to collaborate. You don't want to lose the rights to any of your products or creations. Now, I'm not trying to, take anyone's products or creations. What I've figured out is that in the comic book industry, one of the worst offenses, and it sometimes has to do with the budget, is that you release a comic once a month, sometimes maybe twice a month. That basically means that every 2 months to a month, you're struggling to regain your readership's attention. It's kind of like, for example, picture this: you're watching a TV show, and every month there's one episode for that TV show. The consumer doesn't really care about our strife or our struggles. They just want the product. They don't care that it was made in a garage or it was illustrated by 3 people. At the end of the day, the average consumer believes that the comic book created is at a lower budget than a television series, lower budget than an animated series, cheaper than even to, run a radio show, you know. So what I'm proposing is that we come together under, the banner I've created. I have an LLC. All the links and everything will be below. But I say we come together and form one publishing. And what I'm proposing we do is similar to that of the game industry, where there's going to be the publisher's logo on the top of the comic book, and on the bottom there's going to be the logo of the studio that developed the comic book. And another thing is that rather than have issue 1 March 39th and this and that, we would just have seasons. We would mirror the approach similar to what they do on a television series. So that means, for instance, let me bring up a comic book on here. For instance, I'm just using this as an example. We would have Willpower season 1, issue 1, or we would have, Independent War, and that would be, season 1 and episode 1. But okay, that's just the format I would propose. Now let me get back to the solution. Now what I'm presenting is that instead of us, everyone here on this page releasing one comic book at a time, I say we publish it through my LLC. It's the LLC, Comanga LLC. It will be below, like I said before, it will all be below. Now, what I'm proposing is that instead of going the traditional route of a comic book, with this size, a comic book format, what I'm proposing is that we go with the 8 by 11. You know, this is a New Yorker magazine. This is 8 by 11. Now, let me show you why. Now, notice right here, the price is $5.99 for this New Yorker. And there is about 130 pages in that book, and that's for $6.99. Now, this comic book I bought a while back, the Hulk comic book I bought. The book is about, $4.25 for this book. Now, the reason I'm proposing that we sell 8 by 11 is that where we come from, you know, the urban community, ghetto, whatever you want to call it, we are more used to an 8 by 11 sizing of books. You know, most people in barbershops, going to school, we're used to 8 by 11 because comic books, for the most part, are usually sold in a suburban neighborhood or excluding, our, urban type neighborhood for the most part. Now, the other reason I want to go by 8 by 11 is this, that if we were to release a magazine, a magazine, an 8 by 11 magazine, I just want to bring the magazine back, similar to this New Yorker. Now, what I'm proposing we would do is that I want to release a weekly magazine, and with multiple, weekly magazine featuring multiple series and multiple comic books. Now, what we would do is that this book, this 8 by 11 book, would feature about 50% of one issue script. So that means out of 32 or 28 pages for every issue, this comic book would feature half of that. So if it's 32 pages, let me do the math, 32 pages, 16. That's basically 16 pages. What I'm proposing is that we publish a weekly magazine. And the weekly magazine would feature about 50% of your comic book issue. That's 50% out of one issue. That means if it's a 32-page comic book, this 8 by 11 magazine would only have about 16 pages of your series. And the reason I want to do half of your issue is that we could extend the life cycle of one comic book. And by bringing multiple comic books together and only showcasing 50% of the issue, that means we have 2 weeks worth of content per series featured on the magazine. And the reason I want to do a magazine is that with a magazine, we would all be under one umbrella. That means we would have constant content being provided to consumers. And with 8 by 11, more people from urban neighborhoods and whatnot would be comfortable picking up a magazine, a comic book magazine, rather than a comic book. Like, just to showcase the size difference. This is the Hulk, and this is the 8 by 11 New Yorker. See, pretty much difference. Now, the reason I want to do this is that, a lot of you on here have issues. For instance, maybe you have 8 issues, maybe you have 6 issues. I don't know the numbers. Some of you have 3. And some of you are struggling to put out the next issue because it's so hard for you to get a new or a certain amount of readership. For instance, you might be spending $1,600 if you're paying an artist to, do a comic book. That's $60 per page. Now, coming together under one banner, we can have constant content. And another thing is that by extending the life of one of your comic books, for instance, let's say you only have 1 issue, we would put it on the magazine. What this magazine will feature is that, an 8 by 11 magazine would feature a ongoing series and a one-shot. For instance, let's say you have 1 issue out and you're not certain of when you'll have the next issue. So we'll just put it as a one-shot in the magazine. Now, another thing is by coming together, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Rodney, who created the website, which will be linked below. was, we were both inspired by this gathering of creators together. And another thing is by, we're launching this website is we want to present you artists. We want to give you one website, where we all circulate and create material at once. And another thing is we would have a barter system. For instance, being that we would all be together under one umbrella. For instance, let's say you need a cover artist and somebody in this group has enough time to illustrate a cover for you. It would be free of charge or maybe at a lower rate because we're all in this together. And what I want to do is with this website, we want to feature your comic books. We want to do 8 pages a week, but we'll also have some other features. For instance, we'll have maybe that people vote for an extra 8 pages. It's kind of like what they do on the NBA and NFL network. They actually let the fans vote for the game that will be played on that network. But another thing is coming together with a 8x11 script is that, and by having only 50% of the script, we could fit more series on one magazine. Now, what I'm going to showcase to you now is a heavy metal magazine. Now, heavy metal is basically kind of what I'm trying to do right now. It's a magazine used to showcase artists and writers and creators, but it's more driven by the art than the writing quality. So now what I want to do is create an 8x11 magazine, a weekly magazine, and also every month we would have one combination where we release the whole collection of the month on one. We've collected in 4 weeks on one book. Now, another thing is that by having this book, we would be able to target actually where we're from. The reason I believe a lot of minority-based companies fail is that we are marketing comic books and whatever you're creating, you're marketing it as though you are a Caucasian-based company. We need to advertise and market to how our people move. People in the urban or ghetto, as they call it, whatever they want to call it. People, for the most part, they don't go to comic book stores. You want to know where they go? They go to supermarkets. They go to barbershops. A lot of barbershops usually have subscriptions to maybe a double XL magazine or whatever you want to call it. What I want to do is that, with the 8x11 magazine is that we would also have 4 versions out on the market. Now, what I mean by having 4 is that we would have 2 versions for sale. There would be one fully colored, and the fully colored version would probably go for maybe $5.99 or maybe $7.99. We'll work out the prices when we get the printing, and there would be a black and white version. You see, this is a comic book, but they printed it. Only the cover is in color, but everything else is in black and white. Now, the reason I say we would have a black and white version is that people, and manga has proven it, people do not care about whether the book is fully colored or not. They just want a quality material to read and enjoy. So now what I mean by we would have 4 versions is that we would have a preview version. And the preview version would be for free, where we would give an 8x11 magazine, black and white. Most likely the preview version will be black and white. But the preview version would feature, instead of the purchase version where it's 50% of one issue script, it would feature half of the 50%. So that means it would feature 25% of your issue instead of 50%, the free version. And the reason I want to give a free version is that the reason I want to give a free version. In fact, give me one moment.